All right, we are here live, K Street, 1201 K Street to be specific, Washington, D.C., at Eaton Hotel. I am Rock Harper. This is Service, the podcast, and I'm joined by Gideon Coleman, the K Street coach.
Hello.
And this is obviously the second hour today, and we are joined by an amazing, phenomenal guest who has some roots that I was just made aware of that make her even more rich. Chef Amy Brandwine. Welcome to the show, Chef.
Thank you.
So her restaurant is, I'm going to try to hit this, Centrolina.
Centrolina.
All right, she said it better than me. It is for us people, us Americans that can't do that yet. It's Centrolina is what we know it as, but apparently you pronounce it another way. Gideon, you can hit it. You hit it earlier.
Let's try Centrolina.
Oh, that sounds good.
See?
It just takes a little practice.
It takes a little practice. Listen, I tell you what doesn't, you don't need to say anything when you eat the food there.
No,
Oh,
you can't. You're just spellbound.
Oh my goodness. We had, so we had a show and we didn't have a show. So Gideon said, hey, why don't we
just go there?
Lunch?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I had this, I want to say fettuccine or fettuccine with mushroom. It was mushroom pasta.
Yeah.
What
Chestnut?
Chestnut. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
And we had to start, we had the tartare or the, not a tartare.
It was
like
a crudo.
Crudo.
Yeah.
Tuna, yeah.
And it would, I mean, all of it was phenomenal. What was you had the ravioli, I want to say. Oh no, it wasn't. It was something stuffed.
It was a veal
Ravioli?
Veal ravioli, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It was amazing. And your pastry chef.
Caitlin, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's tops.
Stuffed profiterole? What? Not stuffed.
Oh, the beignet.
Beignet.
I know exactly what you're talking about because
Yes.
that is an insane dessert.
Yeah.
It's butterscotch. I know. I'm a sucker for butterscotch.
It was, listen. And I said, no, I was being all modest. No, I'm good. And he gave me a little bite. And I'm like, damn it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She makes you want to eat dessert.
Yeah.
It is. Listen, you're doing a phenomenal job over there.
Thank you.
I was telling Gideon, and I'll share this on air, that I'd never eaten in your restaurant prior to a couple weeks ago. I'd only had your food at events, which was wild. I think I had it at Lamb Jam too. Maybe you were. I can't remember, but I know I first had it at DC at the food fight.
Yeah.
At the Reagan building, and I tell you, my reaction initially was, like, who is like, and you were just all modest, like, doing your pasta. Here you go. You explained it. And I'm like, who the fuck is this lady? It was, I can't remember what it was. It might have been trophy. I can't remember what it was. It was so good.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So you do phenomenal things with pasta. And congratulations. How long has Centralina been opening?
Almost 5 years in June.
Wow.
Yeah, we're
5
coming
years.
up on it, I guess. Yep.
That is pretty cool. I'm just trying to keep a restaurant open for 90 days.
I hear you. It's tough, man. Yeah, so it's gone by really fast.
Yeah.
So.
Wait. We haven't even discussed what's across the alley.
What's across the Oh,
Piccolina.
Piccolina.
tell us about Piccolina.
So Piccolina is a very small place. It's wood-fired food, and so we cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the only method of cooking that we have is this really ginormous wood oven. So eggs all the way to like porchetta, panuzzos, and this thing called a scotchy, which is like a rolled, stuffed flatbread kind of. It's sort of like, it's from Sicily. So I put lamb sausage in it and things like that. So it sort of tastes a little bit like a pizza, but it's not really pizza.
Sounds like
Stephanie Gans was talking about how dreamy this stuff was last week when she was here. So,
Oh,
yeah.
really? That's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice. So now you're going to have to come to Piccolina.
Yes.
So Piccolina is like, it's easy street. You
Yeah.
just roll in, you roll out. You can take
Yeah.
it for here to go or whatever. So.
Sounds like we could do a show from there.
Oh my God, that sounds like a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just eat all the things on the menu.
and we are gonna like ask questions, but we'll just pile on one more. There's the market at Centralina.
Yes, you can say Centralina.
Centralina.
Yeah.
Whatever we call it, it has a market, and you have amazing pasta that you've made yourself. I mean, this is not like what you're going to get at the store, and I've really enjoyed, taking that and doing whatever with it, like taking squid ink, tagliolini, and making it all Southeast Asian style. I
Cool.
mean, yeah. So definitely know that that's out there. Check it out.
Thank you. Yeah,
you
it's
should
fun.
You should be proud of this dude. He tries all sorts of things.
I always love to hear people that buy the pasta and they take it home and they create something that's like really what I love. You know, I
Yeah.
want people to go home and have an easy time cooking, but
Yep.
be able to cook, you know, without a recipe, and like that's really what I'm all about. So
Yeah.
so that's great.
Now, do you get people? So I had a barbecue restaurant down in Southeast, about the ballpark a couple years ago, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life for a number of reasons. But one of them, so as a chef, like doing what you do, there aren't many people when I've had other restaurants that will come up and say, hey, you know, this is how I did it, or, you know, they want to, you know, this has changed over the past 20 years. Everyone thinks they can cook, and everyone can cook, right? However, in barbecue, everyone thinks they're experts at barbecue, right?
Right.
And my kitchen was open, very
Right.
similar to your kitchen. So everyone would,
Oh my gosh.
everyone would come
Did
up.
anybody have opinions?
Oh my God. Especially, it was all guys. It was 98% guys that had the opinions.
Yeah.
Right? And they would tell me all sorts of stuff.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I wanted to close the
The
kitchen.
pressure.
Oh, it wasn't even pressure. It's like, really?
It's like it's the same as pizza.
Right.
Everyone has an opinion,
So
and
do
they're
people-
all
yeah.
different. And there's no right answer to any of it.
Yeah.
It's personal preference.
It is.
What kind of barbecue were you doing?
So we didn't hone in on a
Yeah.
specific region. We just called it like DC barbecue.
Sounds good.
So we took some plays from different areas.
I don't know the difference between all the barbecues, to be honest. So,
Yeah.
but I know it's good.
Me neither. We smoked meat and we put it in the
That sounds
smoker.
good. That
and
sounds good.
Eat it. There was eat it and shut up barbecue.
There you go. I
So-
love it.
Well, should we dive right in?
Let's dive,
Let's
my brother.
dive right in. Okay. What is the first kitchen you remember loving working in when you were coming up?
Loving working in.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a loaded question, isn't it?
yeah. The first kitchen. Well, I worked. The first kitchen. Well, probably Galileo is the first kitchen that I was cooking in that I loved working in.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about Galileo's.
Well, I mean, it was. This was 20 years ago. It was totally authentic Italian. A lot of wood. Terracotta tiles, and very authentic Italian experience. Like Italians, obviously Chef Roberto Donati is running the kitchen, speaking Italian, and the servers were Italian, and it was like this whole immersion thing. I stepped in and I was like just looking around, like just completely like, where am I, floored. And then
Wow.
I loved it. It was like I had never seen anything like that before. I've never been to Italy at that point, so I was just
So
like
was that your
blown
first
away.
encounter
Yeah.
with Italian
Yeah.
culture in your
Mhm.
face?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was really like mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where is Roberto Donna from?
He's
You know?
from Piemonte, so
Okay.
northern. I'm not very good with directions. North. Is that west? Yeah, northwest part of Italy.
Can you describe for people that don't know, because in America we have this thing where we say Italian food like it's a city, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe what type of Italian cooking it was?
Yeah, it was. It's so the area he's from is very cold. It's very much northern, and it's very close to Switzerland. So the food's very rustic. A lot of polenta, a lot of stick to your ribs type of food. A lot of cheese. So there was a good amount of agriculture there, more like cows, things like that. So hearty food, very rustic, almost peasant food. I shouldn't use the word peasant. I don't know what that means, but rustic, meaning like it was really like, and a lot of beautiful chocolate and the wine, and tons of truffles.
Yeah.
So that I think that it's a lot of stewed meats and things like that, but he really was doing a different spin on it. But he was sticking to that, but also doing more fine dining, if you will. So
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it was a real shock to the system to be dropped into, an Italian kitchen with Italian culture and Italian language in your face. Like, how did you absorb it?
in the beginning, I was just trying to. I I applied there for an externship. I started in the pastry kitchen because that was the only job that was available to me. And I just first started cooking. I mean, I was literally baking cookies and plating desserts, and that was like a whole new thing for me. And then, eventually went on to do other things, but I didn't understand what anybody was saying. I think that's the
Sometimes
first thing.
that's the most comfortable existence.
It was
at all,
for a little while, and then it became not so comfortable. So I didn't understand what anybody was saying, and it was like really exciting, and also sort of like kind of terrifying at the same time. But eventually I learned Italian. So, and I also didn't know how to speak Spanish. So like the only two languages that people were using were Italian and Spanish, and there was very few English people there. So in order for me to learn to do anything, I had to learn both languages.
Yeah.
So like I didn't know how to say artichoke either in Spanish, like say, can you please clean this artichoke for me? Or I couldn't say it in Italian. Eventually I had to learn all of it, but I realized like you have to learn both of these languages if you're going to work here. So.
Well,
Wow.
what I'm struck by is just the
crazy.
chance nature of that experience. Here you are thrust into an Italian kitchen, and I imagine that chance choice just completely shaped the rest of your career.
It did. That's well put. Yes. It was like, this really started out with I loved to cook Italian. Like I loved pesto. I loved tomatoes. I loved everything that was Italian. And I didn't really know much about Italian food except that I liked all those things. I loved basil.
Yeah.
So I decided I went to a French culinary school. And I said, well, I really like Italian. So I think I'm going to try to work in an Italian kitchen, which to the French culinary directors, they were like, oh, what are you doing? Like, who are you? But I said, that's what I want to do. I said, do you think they'll take me? And they're like, I don't know, probably. And I was like, okay. Well, I was like the only person in my class that was interested in working there, I think because it just wasn't, in French culinary style or that type of environment was just, Italian's just like this other world. So,
Yes. Which is crazy to think about right now.
Well,
yeah.
And maybe we can put some words to that, paint a verbal picture of what that is, because we've had lots of conversations about how remarkable it is that in the culinary world, there's this top seat for escoffier. Like, what are the Italian equivalents, and what would the world of cooking look like if Italy were on top?
Gosh, I mean, what's the chef? Marchese, I believe that would be, at that time, was like the equivalent to Escoffier. But yeah, I mean, at the time it wasn't where it is now. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I started, like, Roberto Donno was a very famous person. In DC, he was, very, very famous at that point. But, I mean, Italian food was just not this thing that people were really interested in pursuing as a career. So it was not as, it was new. I think the time was New American, meaning it was like everybody was cooking modern American. That was the thing, or French. And, I delved into this, and then it did literally shape the rest of my career. So I just fell in love with it, and then I stayed in love with it. So I felt like there's something about this that is intrinsically like tied to me somehow, or I would have gotten out of it, right? You never stay with things you hate. So I just felt like very, like, the culture, the way they, the thing I love about Italian food is that not just how it tastes, but each region of Italy has its own agriculture, its own wine, its own, specific dishes, its own dialect. And so all this thing was, to me, was just like a plethora of things to look into and keep looking into and studying. And I felt like I had only been dealing with one region, so that was Piemonte. I cooked there for 8 years, so I knew that back of my hand pretty much. And I was being taught by somebody who back in that area in Italy was like, revered, so I had that. I didn't realize exactly what I was learning until like after, but just so many. I mean, I just love all the different dishes that come out of all these different regions and like why they exist and all the different controversies they have about like this type of pasta, that type of pasta is exactly the same, type of cut, but why are they calling it two different things? And so all that stuff was super fascinating and passionate. Like Italians are very passionate. They're very warm. They're very like a little bit chaotic.
Did you speak with your hands before you started working in Italian kitchens?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. It's just like this thing. So that part of it, I just love all the different things that go along with Italian food. So I think that quite frankly is, and I'm sure is inherently in like, in the cuisine of like, say China, France, this and that. But
Yeah.
I liked Italian food, so for me this was like extremely interesting. I could keep studying for years, and I still wouldn't know, tons of things. So
Yeah.
that's what really attracted me to it. And I loved like the agriculture part of it. That was very interesting to me, and the tomatoes and just everything. And I'll say like at that restaurant, it was very formative for me because in that restaurant they had cooks coming from Italy, coming to work on a work visa, but they were all from different regions of Italy. Huh. So, and they only spoke Italian. So what I realized was that all the cooks and the chefs would all be talking to each other, but they would be talking differently and they may not understand each other. And it was like this whole thing going on, and they're like, they would have misunderstandings because they all have different dialects. So like it was just such a fascinating way to like learn about a country and the culture, and just they were all very different kids and they talked differently, they acted differently, they all had opinions on whose food was the best, and it was really fun.
I recall you make me think about when I first started working in kitchens, and it wasn't a Spanish kitchen, but if you grow up, I grew up in my summers in the South, and in large parts of this country, like people that are Spanish, everybody's Mexican, right? And I know that sounds bad, but it's bad, but everybody's Mexican. You used to hear that, oh, Mexicans.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't believe that. Like my mother did a good job of exposing us to different cultures. But then once you find out, like I started working around a bunch of Spanish people, and I found out not only, I knew that everybody wasn't Mexican.
Right.
But like people in South America are so, I'm just talking about country to country, like even some Mexicans, like it's just so different. Even the Spanish is different. The way we approach ingredients, totally. For me, it was such an educational experience, and it widened my eyes to, just to provide more depth to the culture and the cuisine, and just, don't you, it's the last thing you want to do to eat, I don't care whether you're in Peru, Mexico, Guatemala, don't call anyone from another country, like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's a big no-no.
Right.
And you sort of find out why. It's just like somebody calling me. It's just like, you Jamaican? Nah, bro, I ain't Jamaican. I love Jamaica, but you know what I'm saying? What
Right.
makes you think I'm Jamaican? Because I got dreadlocks.
Right.
It's like, but it's that silly. But it's the same way. For me, it just opened up. I worked with so many different people from South America. And it was really an eye opener. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
It made me smarter as a result. I'm curious though. What was the woman ratio like? Like early on? So this was, you went to what school?
I went to l'Académie de Cuisine.
You went to l'Académie. Yeah. Wonderful school.
Yeah.
So how many women were there?
In culinary school?
Not in culinary. Well, I'm curious. Like, what was that like? Because I know you came you came before me, but in the 90s when I came out, I still, things were somewhat the same. I came up in that Roberto Donna era.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious your experience, in culinary school, and then in that first kitchen.
It was, I think in culinary school it was split about 50-50.
Okay.
And that was for savory. So, I mean, it was 50-50. And then when I went to work in the first kitchen, there were some women in the pastry department. There was a woman working garde manger, but there was no women on the line. So, I was, for the most part of my time there, which was many, many years, I'm trying to think if this is, pretty much the only woman.
At the
Yeah, there's another
Wow.
woman that worked there for a little while. One of my dear friends, Jessica, she worked there as well. I think we worked at the same time for some time, but generally it was one woman on the line. If I mean, I was the only one for most of the time I was there. Yeah.
I get to be the one who asks the dumb questions. What do you attribute that to?
God, I wish I knew. I'm not sure. I think it was just. I'm trying to think. I mean, there weren't any women in most of the top. I don't want to generalize, but my recollection is that there weren't many women in the top restaurants. Period. So it wasn't. It was like there was 5 or 6 top 4-star restaurants at that time, and I mean, to be a woman in a kitchen was just like there was probably one in each kitchen.
Yeah.
If that. So.
And DC was a very different place than it is now, as far as just restaurant town.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right. It was. You had few chefs.
Yeah.
But it wasn't close to what it is now.
No.
As far as the plethora.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Completely different.
So how did that frame you? What did that do to your lens? Like, what were you thinking around that time? And it was, there are stereotypically. I'll be real.
No, please be real. I love being real.
I remember a chef said to me one time, a former line mate of mine went to work at this new hot restaurant. It's 1223. It was a club, but they were trying to fashion themselves a restaurant. This was when DC started to become like this sort of nightlife thing, whatever. And he worked coat check. And I said to the chef, I was like, yo, I'm not going to say either one of his names. Do you know? You say Bob. Bob is working at 1223. Chef says to me, yeah, he's a coat check girl. And I said, what? Bob he's like, yeah, it's a coat check girl. I'm like, why you call him a girl? He said, because there are certain positions in a restaurant. It's a real old school chef, and I ain't going to say his name. There's certain positions in a restaurant that are for girls. And the coat check is for girls. And he said he went to the kitchen and he's a coat check girl. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
So, but there is this, when you say pastry and garde manger, that you saw the women, that doesn't surprise me for a number of reasons. But I often wonder what that, I mean, you made it, right? You are on the other side of you kept going.
Yeah.
What does that do to your perspective, and how did you get to this point? That's a long, broad question, but what does that do?
Yeah, but to fill it in would be interesting, because now you work at a restaurant where the chef is a woman, and Caitlin, who's in charge of pastry, is a woman. Something happened.
Yeah. It made me, it made me, I really was dedicated to the cuisine in the restaurant. And my chef gave me a big shot at that point when that was just not the norm. Yeah. So I give him a lot of credit for putting me in a position to be where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But
you say he gave you a big shot.
Yeah, to become executive chef of Galileo was a huge deal. There was not a woman I was the first chef of any kind in that kitchen that was a woman in 20 years. So it was quite a, big deal. So, but it was really, really hard. It was really hard to they were not used to having a woman chef. So, it was very hard to manage like that, because it wasn't hard to work with the cooks. I cooked with them every day, right? I was the line cook. I was then a saucier. I was a sous chef, and then I became executive chef. But when you are put on that, being a chef, you're put on that promotional train where you become a sous chef, and then that sets you up for the rest. So that initial first job that I was put in a position of leadership was tough, because I had obviously outpaced some of the people I was working with who were men, and some Italians. So it was really controversial, It was not necessarily always a, bowl of, what do you call it? What's the expression? A fruit bowl.
People weren't saying, hey, congratulations.
It wasn't necessarily like that. It was like, let's see what happens here. It was more like that.
And I'm interested in.
And I expected it. It was fine, but it wasn't. It was just like, what is going to happen with this?
Right.
I'm eager to learn about both them and you. What did both sides have to unlearn for that to work.
Yeah, I had to learn a lot. I mean, quite frankly, like I had never run a kitchen before, so I had no experience. So that was really hard. I had to learn how to manage a kitchen and in a very high pressure environment, not, in an extremely high pressure environment with a very demanding chef with, multiple things going on at the same time. So he had the laboratorio. I was in charge of basically assisting him and helping make sure everything was running for that correctly. The main restaurant, we were doing the Galileo grill, which was like these sandwiches, and then we had the osteria at the front. So there was like 4 different things I was kind of in charge of. So I had to learn all that, and I had to realize it was sometimes hard because people were just resistant just because they were resistant. So that made my job a lot harder. So some people, not everyone, I'm generalizing, some people were just like had a grudge or they had a chip on their shoulder, because they didn't think that I should have be there. So that made it really hard for me to do my job. At the same time, like there was, a lot of people realized that I was doing a good job for my chef. So that was fine. But in terms of like what they had to unlearn, I think they just had to they just had to see me. I don't know if that makes sense. Like they had to literally.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. It means they had to they had to be present in this environment where there was a woman telling them what to do.
Got you.
And that was very new to most people that were working there. It was just a very, I have to say that part of it was the Italian dynamic too, because I was not Italian, and I was hired by an Italian to run an Italian kitchen amongst Italians. So in their minds, sometimes I shouldn't be an Italian. I shouldn't be, running the kitchen because I wasn't Italian, but I was very good at my job. So I was a very good cook. So, and also I had a lot of organizational skills, which were very helpful to my boss. So I guess they had to unlearn, they had to just go with it. And I think that was probably, I think I'm still friendly with many people that I used to work with. So it was sort of like this difficulty that we all made it through it.
Yeah.
But during the storm, it wasn't always so pretty. But to this day, every single person I worked with there, I still run into, we still speak, we're all friendly, and we all reminisce on what it was like to come up in that type of environment. So on the whole, it was really great. So how it did set me up for now, I think it made me super tough. So I was used to a lot. My threshold was extremely high.
Yeah.
So, I think that was what set me up so well, because I was really working a lot. I was working probably 80, 90 hours a week. And yeah.
I remember the days.
The days where they said, there's days, you probably remember, the cooks, or the chefs, they would work, 14, 16-hour days, sometimes 18-hour days. And those are sort of like legend, but I was really doing that, and people around me were really doing that. These days, not so much, but it made me really tough. My work ethic was, it made me realize that, if you have a good work ethic and you do your job really, really well, and you take care of the business, then you can do anything.
Right. Because
the only thing that people on the ownership side really care about is my business being taken care of? And I realized, I'm not going to go anywhere as long as he keeps me here. And he was not getting rid of me anytime soon. So I just realized I have the support of a massively important chef. For some reason, he's supporting me in his kitchen. He thinks that I'm doing a great job for him. I'm taking care of his customers and things like that, and he's put me in a position of leadership when most of the Now let's talk about this for a second. I'm sure he got some backlash too. I mean, he had his world was a lot of famous French chefs and all these people,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm sure he got a little bit of backlash. Like, gosh, you have a woman executive chef. She's American. What are you doing? You know, so that was a whole learning experience for me. And now I have all women in leadership. I think because I realized like I had been spending so much time like, trying to articulate what I thought was best for whatever business I was working in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is long past Roberta. This is more like when I was working for a New York restaurant group that it was just very male dominated. And I was like their chef. I opened one restaurant for them, then I opened another restaurant for them. And, you know, articulate what I thought was like the best for our location was very difficult. And then the place closed. And so I just thought that like, I think that I finally got the funding to do my own restaurant. So I said, you know, you need to be able to speak with one voice. You need to be able to say very clearly what you want and not have the resistance for any other reason. There shouldn't be any resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know from my background that there is resistance for things that have nothing to do with anything except I'm a woman.
You're a woman.
So I realized like the only way I'm going to succeed at this is that if I have people who believe in me, and it ended up being women that were interested in joining the team, and it felt very good. I have to say, like I love men too. I love men and women, but it felt very good to be able to like say this is what we're going to do, and we're going to go off this, and we're going to do this, and it just took off because I think we're all on the same page. Very smart women joined my team.
All women leadership?
Well, yeah, when I opened, I had my general manager, Angie. I had my sommelier, Kristen, and my pastry chef was a woman too. So 4 women in top leadership positions. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I want to paint this out for a little bit. As a guy, so I've seen it in real time. We've all seen it if you work in kitchens for any amount of time. And this can vary, but we're talking about male versus female. And this, like, equality, it's going to sound crazy, but equality is a new thing for many cultures, right? Many people, especially in kitchens, come from, and this is Americans, but the woman is not on equal footing as the man.
No way.
And so when you have a boss, and then she tells you the exact same thing as the guy, inside they're like, oh hell no. I've seen guys quit. No woman's gonna talk to me that way. What are you talking about? She's right. So woman, like, whether they can state it that way. So I've seen it play out. And so kudos to you for
it's a weird thing. It's a weird dynamic that you're like, is this really happening? Like, this feels weird and uncomfortable, but it does. I mean, it happens all the time. Or even like I had a chef that was working for me that I said do this like this, and it's like sort of like with I don't want to criticize all men or generalize, but I had to like convince him why my position or what I was asking him to do was correct. Now, normally that wouldn't have to take place, right? Just be like, we're going to do it this way. So
this is somebody that's working for you.
Yeah, not anymore. But it's just like these things come up all the time. These things come up all the time. They don't go away.
So how come you didn't? Was there a moment where you wanted to quit? Because, like, is there a defining moment where you were like, fuck this shit? Because I know me. I've had those moments.
I know. I'm
right?
sure. I mean, it's hard.
And as a woman, like, I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that's like. When I yell, right? It's different for me than it is like certain, like even a white dude, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
When I yell, I'm passionate, right?
Yes.
When you yell, you're
angry.
You're an angry.
I know.
It's that time of the, like.
It's the Hillary Clinton syndrome.
Could I take that question and stretch it just
stretch it out?
It is very true, though.
Pastry coach, yes.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about is the calculus of, thinking, fuck this, I'm gonna quit, and what happens all the times you don't do it, and what happens when you do it. Like, what is quit or leave a situation. Like, what is the difference in the thinking? Because I imagine you've been on both sides of that.
Yeah, I never thought about really quitting the profession until my restaurant wasn't my restaurant, but until the restaurant at DuPont Circle closed, Casanona, and I had been under a very difficult time, meaning like I'd opened the restaurant for them, then they had me go and open another one. I did that. I had knee surgery in between, and I was still going to New York, and I could barely walk. And then to come back, and then they decided that the restaurant wasn't making any money, and they closed it. So after that, I was like, fuck that shit. So I was really, really pissed off. So because I had, I mean, let's just be real. They gave me 2 weeks severance, and I had created an entire plethora of recipes for them, et cetera, et cetera. So you're like, wow, I mean, like, you're a chef, and I launched this restaurant for you. I launched another one for you, and I come back and I get 2 weeks severance. That's what I get. So at that point, I was just like, you know what? This is never. I'm never doing this again. It was just it's like, you're gonna be an owner. This is the only way you're gonna make it. You're not making it any other way. Meaning make it like I am now. Mm-hmm. Like, I realized there's no way I was gonna be successful unless something changed. Something dramatically changed, and I felt like it didn't have anything to do with me. Mm-hmm. Like, it had more to do with the environment that I was being put in. So now you can argue, like, why? Well, you made the choice to take that job. Yes, but sometimes these jobs are few and far between, and like, you want an opportunity, you take it. But yeah, I don't know.
When you say change in the power structure or the control structure? Control
and power, yeah. I mean, it was really simple. It was really like, I had a plethora of, obviously I had a huge background in cooking, but if I couldn't get anybody to support me, like the way that, like, me, meaning like me as a persona, me as a chef, if I couldn't have anybody want to buy into me and what I'm doing, and they just wanted to hire me and plop me in whatever concept they had, like, there was no way I was going to be successful. And even I realized this power dynamic was going on, and I just felt like the only way for me to really get this done is, like, I know I'm smart enough. I know that I can do the business part of it. I can cook, obviously, very good at opening restaurants.
Yeah.
So I felt like this is your last chance. Now you've been dropped on the ground. Like, you have been just unceremoniously dumped on the floor. And you have, like, killed yourself to do these two things in the span of two years. And I was just like, it was like talking to myself, like, this is right in your face. There's no way you cannot acknowledge your reality, which is that right now I'm out of a job. Mm-hmm. And I've been working my ass off for somebody for 2 years straight, and treated poorly for no reason whatsoever. So that was my calling. Yeah. And I'm really glad it happened, because it was my wake up call. Glad it's time to get serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Good. Yeah. I mean, because we often don't see that this is what propelled, like, this is what, if that had not, then, and so sometimes we get caught up in victimhood. I mean, make our statements.
Anybody does, yeah.
It's just like that barbecue restaurant. It really hit me hard. I mean, I was working 90 hours, I messed my body up. I lost some relationships, and it's just like with I was a line item on the P&L and it's just like, it really screwed me up. In a lot of ways, but when I can reflect on the story, I can say, okay, I see how that was setting me up for the next thing.
Right.
But unless you have many people do not. We get stuck in, they owe me. I can't believe they did this to me. I still don't like that guy.
Right.
Right. If I saw him right here, I'm not going to touch him, but it just wouldn't be any niceties exchanged.
Right.
But I still appreciate the experience and what it did for me today.
Yeah, I think for me, I realized it was a business decision.
Right.
What was going on was a business decision. That was clear to me, and I know that why the place wasn't successful, because of financial projections and rent calculations and all that stuff was not.
It was a big place. It was
it was not financially going to be sound based on a lot of assumptions. When you open a restaurant, you make assumptions, projections. Anyway, long and short of it is, I thought at the end of it, this is a business decision. However, like, you have put yourself in this very vulnerable position, and you need to not do this anymore. So I think that was just like, and I just said, this is it. Like, you're either going to do this or you're not going to do this. I'm not allowing myself to be this hired chef anymore. It's going to open all these restaurants. I said, no more. That's it.
Good.
Well, there are all kinds of reasons that anyone does anything, and you had amassed lots of skills at that point. You'd amassed recognition. People pushed back against it, of course. But how did the tangible equity of ownership change life for you?
You know what, I have to say, like, it has completely changed just my entire personality. I'm still the same person, but like in terms of like, I feel like I'm in control of myself. Like I don't know if I felt that way before. I felt like maybe it was just sort of like life is, I think being an entrepreneur changes your perspective. Before I was sort of like, life just happens to me and I make decisions and life just happens, right? Now I feel like I create an environment, or I do something that creates something else. So like, I feel like it has changed the way I am. Like I just even, I think differently. And I'll say one thing is like, I was never very outspoken about anything. I mean, I was like a worker bee, I was just work, and, not too much speaking out about this and that. But, once I just, once I spilled the beans in the Washington Post, then I was by myself. My publicist wasn't there. And then it all went to hell. But like, what?
About the Noma situation?
What? No, in the Washington Post, when I opened the Centralina, there was like this whole story about.
Okay.
And I was just I just like spoke my truth, and then I realized like, wow, like people are really interested in what I have to say. Like this is like, I was like terrified, and like now everybody's like enjoying this whole thing. So I realized like it's really good to be upfront and be who you are and be like, I'm not never authentic, but I'm saying it's a good thing to talk freely about your experiences. I realize there's so many people out there that were wanting to have this discussion, and I just like fell into it, I guess, by being honest,
And your publicist not being there.
And my publicist not being there.
to give you the finger.
Yeah, when you sit with the Washington Post for an hour and a half, things happen.
Right, and they don't stop.
They
Tell
don't
us
stop.
more. I got all day. Can't believe this. Yeah.
Well, as someone who came up in a kitchen where you were skilled enough to be given the responsibility to become executive chef, and then had to put up with all the BS of people second guessing it, now that you have your own kitchens, how do you consciously create a different culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great question. By surrounding myself, the thing is, when I opened the place and had this leadership and opened opportunities up for so many different types of people, it really created like this wonderful oxygen of people knowing that they could speak their mind, that they had a voice, that everybody's opinion mattered. And I think in the kitchen, that type of thing, people feel accepted for who they are. And I think that is our oxygen. So that is the oxygen we breathe every day there. So I'm very honest with them about my business, myself. They know that. They know what I had to go through to get the place open. They know what it takes to keep it open. They are part of like this force that we all work together at the same time. Like I'm obviously in charge, but it's a big team, so I'm always interested in other people's opinions and perspectives. And I think that is really the game changer for us. And we all move, like we're like a football team, and we all move down the field. Like I tell them, like it's one day at a time. We're gonna inch one day at a time towards something else, and we really all move together. So I think that's the secret to our success, is just the environment.
Listen, we gotta start live tweeting, because you just
I don't know what that is.
So many quotes. You created this wonderful oxygen. I love that.
Yeah.
It just I felt that. I feel like, okay, so this is the air that we breathe. This is who we all are. We created this wonderful oxygen. I'm going to tweet that later.
Well, you know what
Yeah.
this reminds me of? The first time that I met Chef Rock was a little over a year ago, and I'm an executive coach. The last kitchen job.
Oh, good. That's exciting.
Yeah, the last kitchen job that I held was in college, or right after college, and so I had to do a lot of research just to understand an industry. And then, I talked to Chef Rock. I was like, how people in the restaurant industry are wired to serve. I think that was the first thing I talked about, and how often they themselves don't get served, and so dignity gets compromised by people who are built to offer hospitality. What I'm hearing you describe as the culture that you've created intentionally is one that acknowledges, from the most basic foundation that, this is who we are. We're people who are wired to serve, and we need to serve each other and ourselves. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's no model for Centralina, like that old school model or this or that. It's like, this is what we're doing. This is who we are. We believe in X. We believe in diversity. We believe in excellent food. We believe in authenticity. We believe in not being too stuffy. We believe in making the customer super happy. We believe in not overcharging people. And like, there's all these things that are our beliefs that are part of who we are. And every single person that works there is sort of on board. And I realized that then, once we established the culture through a little bit of time and just by, being who we are, we started attracting people that wanted to work for us just for that reason. So then I am always like,
word gets out.
Well, it's like, we're not perfect,
Yeah.
but it always amazes me. I interview, when I meet servers and I'm like, oh, well, so, what brought you here? And they're like, I find out that the reason they came was because of me, of the culture and things like that, and what I'm about. And it floored me, because I never realized that type of culture or environment would attract people off the street. Like, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, wow, this is really working. I always wanted to, like, there's these restaurants where you go in, where it feels good,
Mm-hmm.
and the people who work there seem happy, and then like the food's great, and it's just like this awesome like vibe, and it's like not pretentious. And I was like, I just want this place. I was thinking like in the future, before I was an owner, I wanted this place. Like, I wanted to feel this certain way. And then when I actually created it, just by the humans that were working with me, I just said, oh my gosh, like, you've created something that you have this oxygen that nobody else has, or at least we have our own special oxygen. And it's like attracting customers, it's attracting employees. Like, I mean, it's great.
Yes.
And so that was like, that's like the intangible that you don't ever know if you're going to get it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality of the people that we get because of it is really nice, because they're all empathetic. They're all like very smart, articulate, kind, funny, like, hip, like open-minded, diverse, all these things. And like, it's sort of then it starts to create itself, and it's taken 5 years to do that, but
It's all right.
it's been fun.
Yeah. We're running down, and we're about to.
Did I answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautifully.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I have a tendency to ramble. I'm
no,
sorry.
this is great. I'm curious if you think the oxygen or the culture, the feel, is ever able to be checked by the public or reviewers, right? So, and if so, how? I know that's sort of a bigger one, but do you think that we'll ever have a time where that's, there's decibel levels now, which have been recently introduced, but are people happy, or the vibe of the joint?
How do you check the pulse of that, right?
Do you think that we'll ever get to a space where that becomes a part of, whether it be the individual's reviews or like a Washington Post review?
Such a great question that nobody ever talks about. I think, yes. I think, I have to say that our review, Tom Seesman gave us our first 3-star review, I think a year ago, or I don't know exactly how long ago, but it talked about that. It talked about how great he was sitting with people and they said, this is happiness. And for me, that was like the ultimate,
Mhm.
because like that is what we were about. And so it's about the food, obviously, and the wine and all this other stuff, but like he was more speaking about how my employees make them feel. And that is the thing that is the most important in this whole thing. Is I say to the staff, like, the most important thing is like, how do you make people feel? How is this making people feel? You know, so he did remark on that once, twice, and that to me is like, gosh, you know, I mean, that was like the most incredible thing, because like he captured why the place was doing so well. It wasn't just the food. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just because I was a woman. It was like this whole thing wrapped up was making people feel amazing. They
Wow.
loved coming in, and so, and that's why they keep coming. And so, yeah, I think when there's bad energy, I think that reviewers sort of like, they notice it. They kind of like, there's something off here. They just can't sink their teeth into it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. It's an intangible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think I can feel it. I think we all can be attuned to it. We might not even know what it is, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just something feels right,
Mhm.
or something doesn't feel right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I want to make mention of two things. One, you are, we had this conversation off camera, TC alum.
Yes.
Remember the Titans.
Go
So I was at
Titans.
TC. My friend Camilla Lawson, who's a teacher there now, she's younger than me, so she graduated a couple years prior. Her mother was Miss Lawson. I don't know. She was a track.
Yeah. I think
Yes.
I know her.
Yes.
Yeah. I was a soccer player.
Oh, you an athlete?
Oh
okay.
yeah,
So you
I was
probably
a
know Miss
soccer
Lawson.
player. Yeah,
So
I
her
love
daughter-
playing sports. I don't do it
Yes.
anymore, but I was a big soccer player. Yeah.
So shout out to another Titan in the
Wait,
building.
we have to shout out another person.
Please.
You may not know her, but she is also a graduate teacher. Tracy Young. She just won a Grammy Award last week. One of my old BFFs from high school soccer
Wow.
days.
Stop it.
Grammy.
I heard about Tracy
Unbelievable.
Young.
Yes.
Congratulations, Tracy Young. I know you're watching.
Yes.
Somebody get this to her.
She's a DJ. She's like, she mixes for Madonna, I guess, and
Wow.
she's an amazing woman. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see the whole Grammys, but I saw her go on stage,
Yeah.
and her voice took me back like
Mm.
to high school. I was like, wow, this
That's
is
crazy.
cool.
Yes.
I just got goosebumps. It was
Yes.
cool. Yeah.
Big things coming out of TC. I gotta catch up. I gotta play some catch up. Winning Grammys and 3
Isn't it?
stars and stuff.
Stop.
Yes.
And I'm on your podcast.
Yeah, you are on
Yeah.
my podcast. We got you on. The second thing I wanted to mention and thank was Annette Larkin, who is a friend. She was on the show a few weeks ago, and she was the one who initially met. She connected you and I with Heart and Soul.
Yes.
And Chef Amy, which Gideon was there, was one of our eventual champion. She participated kind of at the last minute, maybe within the last week, with Heart and Soul, which supports Central
wow.
Union Mission. And it was probably was our best event to date. Just keeps getting better every year.
It was great.
But you came in and did a phenomenal job. You were nervous too. I'm just
I'm
wow.
still
Amy
sweating.
Brandwine nervous.
I'm still sweating thinking about it.
You killed
10
it.
minutes. 10 minutes to create a dish.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. But you all did. I mean, all chefs
And
are great.
and the DJ that was with me, she's fabulous. Pope.
Yes.
Yes,
She's gonna kill me for doing that. But
she's amazing.
y'all just were a great team, and I just want to thank you again
No, it
for
was
doing
fun.
that. It was it was a great event, and we really appreciate it. We raised a lot of money
Well,
for homeless men and women that night.
You are an amazing human, and I know all you do for the community. So, I mean, please, when Harper asked you to help, you say, yes, of course I will.
Well,
Oh.
how? Yeah.
Aren't you the best? Aren't you
Yes.
the best? I appreciate it. Chef Amy, is there how do people get in contact? What do they go to the Citrulina website?
Yeah.
What's the best way?
Yeah, that's it. Ciao at Centralina.
Ciao with Citrulina.
Literally, ciao at centralinadc.com.
Beautiful. Check out the website. We didn't get to talk about the molasses cookies. Oh my! Talking
Oh.
about intangible. Talk about the tangibles. Oh my! She sends you away with this molasses cookie in a cute little
Oh,
bag.
yum.
You just want to come back so you can get another cookie.
I know cookies, man. I spend all my days trying not to eat them. They're
We
so
should send
good.
you away with something in a cute little
Oh,
bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. It's been.
Oh, this is nice. K Street coaching. You know, executive coaching, I mean, is Gosh, how do I would love some executive coaching.
Well, we can talk. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
But
guy.
I mean, I think that's important. Not
Yeah.
many people invest in like being a
Themselves.
manager is hard.
Yeah.
It is
It's
really
hard. It's
kudos
it's
to
a
you.
skill.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, for you, I don't people that are non-restaurant folks that don't understand really what it could be like to come out of culinary school in the early '90s and to work in a pretty much all-male kitchen. One of the best chefs, Roberto Donna, was that guy, right? Was that guy. Galileo was that place. The laboratory was that place.
Yeah, it was.
And for you to come up and like emerge triumphant all these years later is a true testament to your resiliency and your persistence and just your creativity. So
Oh, thank
It's like
you.
winning a Grammy.
it is like
No,
winning a
it's
Grammy.
not. It's not like winning a Grammy, but if no, I mean Grammy. Can't believe it.
Oh, can't believe
I mean,
it.
I played soccer with her every day, so I was just like, wow, she's on stage. It was like incredible. It was like crowds, and she's like in this pink suit. I was like, wow.
You got to
This is
call up and ask for
incredible.
tickets next year. You got
Yeah.
to send a high school photo.
Yeah. So TC, yeah.
Remember the
Loved,
Titans.
and then remember the Titans for sure.
Thank you, Chef, for coming
Thank
on.
you.
It's been great. We're here at Eaton, right here at K Street in Washington, D.C. I am Rock Harper. This is Gideon Coleman. We're saying peace with Chef Amy Brandwine.
Thank you.
Thank you.